Nerds. I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Peyton.
And today we are going to be reading and reviewing a random book from the booktok table at Barnes & Noble's.
So, join us with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets.
All right, before we jump into this, let's step back to 2 weeks ago when Peyton and I went to Barnes & Noble's in search of the perfect booktok book. Are you ready?
Yes, we're here.
Barnes & Noble!
Alright guys, this is the elevator.
Oh my god, no way.
Where I'm from, they don't got elevators in their Barnes & Noble. They don't got them. But this one where we live now, we've got elevators. And we're going to the booktok table right now.
This is an escalator. This isn't an elevator.
This is the escalator. Yeah,
Every
this
time.
is the escalator. We usually go to the fantasy section over there, but for you guys today, we're going to the booktok table.
Oh yeah.
We are going to do the inheritance games because this book has been very popular, so let's buy it. She came from nothing. They have everything. Let the games begin. This book is supposed to be sad.
This is how we move through Barnes & Noble's. It's just touching books that we know. I miss the YA.
Make the chapters so short. Like that chapter is 2 pages. This book has like 80 plus chapters.
Good, because we have to read this in 2 weeks.
All right, so bringing it back to today, it's been 2 weeks since Aubrey and I have finished the inheritance games, and we are going to start with a non-spoiler review and star rating before jumping into some of the juicy details.
Yes, so starting off, The Inheritance Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes follows Avery Grahams, a brilliant high school student just trying to survive. But then her fortunes change in an instant when billionaire Tobias Hawthorne dies and leaves Avery virtually his entire fortune. The catch? Avery has no idea why or even who Tobias Hawthorne is. Woo!
And this all goes down in the first couple of chapters. We jump right into it.
That's not a spoiler. This is our non-spoiler section, but in the first 6 chapters, the first 40 pages, maybe less. This is the plot of the book. It says what? It says she came from nothing. They have everything. Let the games begin. But no,
Yes,
this book
it is no spoiler that she's given it all.
Yes, it jumps very quickly into the plot, which I appreciated. When you sit down to read a book, especially based off the cover, she's going to inherit this fortune. That's the shock to the characters, but that's not a shock to the reader. And so I appreciated getting right into it because the plot of this book is about solving this mystery and puzzle and game that Tobias Hawthorne left behind for Avery and his 4 incredibly hot grandsons to solve.
Yes, and Avery is just thrown right into the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this writing is pretty young. It's a YA book.
YA.
But they, with the fantasy element the mystery element into it, it kind of keeps you on your toes. It's like, who is Tobias?
Yeah, I thought that there was a lot of good one-liners where you're like, "Oh my god, that was such a good line." It's definitely YA, but I think it makes it such a fun read. We read this obviously in 2 weeks, and I had no difficulty with that. It was a fun, exciting read. The biggest YA thing for me with this was when it kept repeating lines that had already been given in the book so you don't forget them, or every time Avery was thinking back to something and it was that exact line, or Sander told me this and stuff like that, just hitting you don't miss this point, this point's important. But honestly, it makes you feel a little smart when you're solving the mystery.
Yes, I will say, reading this, it's a little juvenile. And, it's just because we are so involved in the adult fantasy world that, when we go from reading about these, highly, oh, I didn't even see that. I really didn't see that coming. I totally missed that. For this, you're like, oh, like I'm a detective. Like this is so yeah, it's cute. The
Mhm.
structure is a little bit different. Sometimes chapters are a page and a half long,
Yes.
versus books that we read that are like 18 pages long. So yeah. With that being said, how did you feel about the pacing?
I loved it. I loved being able to just right through the book. I really enjoyed, even though like it is YA, I felt like the mystery was well done. I still was like, oh, what's gonna happen next? Kind of going through it. And I was just like, this is a fun, easy read. You?
Yes, I think yeah, I think that this we just last week talked about our childhood favorite books, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that because this is a series, this is something I would have
Oh
like
my god.
grabbed onto as a child.
Obsessed.
And so I think like little Peyton is like, oh my god, this is so much fun. But me now, I'm like, okay, all right, I see where this is going. This is good. Like, let's just, this is, yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah, the pacing's great. Same thing. Sometimes I feel like things are a little bit redundant where I'm like, I already know this. But once again,
Yeah.
it's YA. We need to remember that when we're reading this
Hmm.
YA book. But with that being said, I don't read YA a lot, and I liked it for the most part. It's a book that I would be like, yeah, I'll read the next one.
Yeah.
So definitely, yeah, I give it a thumbs up.
I loved the characters. I think that okay, so there's four
Ooh,
grandsons. There is
yes,
Grayson, Jameson, Xander, and Nash, and I did not say them in order. I just said them as
no.
I thought of them. I think it's very funny. They don't come off as brothers. Now they are all half brothers, but I think like again with the YA bit, I think that she was trying very hard to draw clear lines so you don't get them confused. And so they're very tropey. There's like the old protecting cowboy who and then there's like Grayson, who's constantly wearing a suit, and he calls Avery Miss Grams the entire time, and is like very like prickly and distant. And then there's Jameson, who's like the tragic poet, like woe is me character. And then there's Xander, who's like bubbly and fun and a little
He's like,
wonky,
I'm
and
just
like
here. Yeah.
but they're all fun, and I love their vibes. I think that it was overdone in a fun way.
Yes, and I think it's done on purpose because even I was like, "Wait," and I was like, "Who are you?" I was like, "What brother are you?" It's like, "Wait,
Yeah.
how old are you?"
Mhm.
And it's weird. I even had to look it up. I'm like, okay, Xander's 17. It goes 17, 18, 19, and then I think Nash, who's the
Yeah.
oldest, he's 25.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
which would be around her sister Libby, who's in the story's age. So
Yes.
you kind of see like how they are matured wise, but it is very
Mhm.
interesting, especially with the three younger siblings having Avery thrown into the middle of that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's a thrilling, exciting story, and
Mhm.
I do not want to give anything more away about their
No.
personalities.
Mhm.
Um, so, with that being said, I would give this book a 3 out of 5 stars. And it's
Uh,
not because I don't love it. It took a while for to grow on me. It wasn't a book I was excited to come back to again and again. Um, but it's a good book. It's a good book.
mhm.
Good story.
I had a little bit of a better experience with this. I really enjoyed this. This is not like I don't think that this is a book that I will think back upon a bunch and be like, "Oh my god, like this book changed my life." This book didn't change my life, but I was highly entertained, and I review books one on a little bit of a nicer edge, and two, I like to review books for where they are. Like this book isn't trying to be a Charles Dickens novel. Like this book isn't trying to be something that it's not, and for what it is, the YA, the mystery, the pacing, I think this is a 5-star YA read. Is it a 5-star adult fantasy read for me? No. But for where it is and what it is, I think it's a 5-star read. I think it accomplishes everything that it set out to do. And I would totally recommend this, especially to a younger audience, like little cousins. If my brother would ever pick up a book, he's 17. He would need the younger
Isn't
audience
that
book.
so?
um, but yeah, I would totally recommend this book. If you need like a cooler book between like a big fantasy adult book or like a super serious book, like if you read a lot of nonfiction and you need like something fun in the middle, totally.
Oh yeah, I agree with that 100%.
All right, now, y'all, we are going to shift gears. We're going to talk about this book in depth. We're going to talk about our favorite moments, and we are going to give spoilers. So, if you haven't read the book and don't want spoilers, now is the time to pause the video, go read this book. It's a fun, quick read, and come back to chat with us. Yeah, you should leave if you need to. Spoilers coming.
Yeah, leave right now. Yeah, go leave right now.
And then
All
come
right,
back.
I'm about to say something, so you better be gone. Okay, and 1, 2, 3. Aubrey, what about the ending of this book?
The mystery that's solved, or is it? Okay. So, first of all, like obviously Avery had to be more than just like born on the day that Emily died. Like no, this was too much already. But the fact that the reason that she was connected is because she knew Toby the whole time? Like what the heck? And then like all of those implications. So okay, the point of the will was this idea that like or the letters was like that money corrupts and absolute money corrupts you absolutely, all of that. Okay, so Toby, which is Tobias's son, was obviously the heir, original heir. He was going to probably inherit everything because of sexism, and then something happens. He basically possibly fakes his death because the next time we see him that we know of is that he's Henry, the homeless dude. And so did he choose to
Yes.
give up all that money, or did he get forced to give up all that money? Tobias was keeping like checks on him when he met Avery, but also Avery, I don't think she was helping Henry from the very beginning. Like the first time he talked to her, she was what, 6?
Yes.
So like,
The whole so the connection between Toby and Tobias and how
mhm,
Avery's worked. So like let's just say Toby's like, F you guys, I'm out of here. Money is stupid. I'm gonna go live like a simple life
yeah,
as a homeless man, whatever. Whatever that storyline is, I'm sure we'll figure out in the next books. But how does Avery wrap into this?
right,
And is it something her mom has to be a part of this somehow?
yes,
I don't know if I don't know if Toby's there to keep a check on her, but how did she even
yeah,
come to meet this man in the park? Like, did her mom kind of was like, hey, like this guy's go play chess with him. Like Avery, you left chess. Go play chess with this man. And
mhm,
then that's how it all started. So there are many questions that are unanswered, but the fact is that it's the homeless man in the park, and I totally overlooked that. I thought she was
right.
just a nice person.
I know. Okay, so the book starts with this scene of them playing chess, and it's literally just like basically a page. Like it's like this bit here, and then like this like tiniest little bit on the next page. And I'm like, okay, we started this up to show how smart she is because she's playing chess, she's thinking through the moves. I love the opening with like the idea, like starting with her mom and the secrets, and then her mom dies, the chess, and she's doing this with a homeless man, and you're like, okay, so that's setting up to show that like she's in a bad situation to like reflect back when she becomes rich. But no, we start with this scene because the homeless dude that we all brush off and we're like, oh, he's there to make her look better, is actually this huge character. But it just
Yes, and I think that's what makes this book so amazing,
yeah.
and I think that's why I would recommend it. is
Mhm.
because of the whole like this full circle moment that
Yeah.
the author takes us on, and I just love that like style. I like that
Mhm.
idea that authors put into their writing is like, and you see it a lot with fantasy where it's like, here's this tidbit, we're
Yeah.
gonna come back to it later
It's
when you're
gonna
not
matter.
expecting it.
Yeah.
And I usually think that way, but for some reason, I don't know if I was like, well, it's just a YA book. Like, we'll see that. No, like
Uh-huh.
this, that's probably, I mean, it's my favorite part of the whole book. I just sat there for a
Mhm.
moment. I was like, all right, I understand why people rate this book so highly now.
And you don't expect it
This is
at all.
amazing.
Yeah.
No, you don't expect it at
You
all.
don't
Not,
you're
not
you're
one
not
bit.
looking
Not
for
one
it.
bit.
And, like, especially just because of how short and, like, YA this book is, like, I love the fact that then you can see all the ties so clearly. Like, we got to the end, she looked at the locket, and she's like, "I knew that guy," and you immediately are like, "Oh my god, we know who it is. Oh, we know how this links together. We can see all of these, like, little like, the foreshadowing and the laying of things, like, so clearly." Obviously there's two more books to come, which we haven't read yet. Um, but the idea that like, okay, so Toby would go left or died or was forced to leave, but then Avery probably didn't start interacting with him and taking care of him until she was older. But it was when she was 6 that Tobias was like asking her about her name and asking her if she could spell it. So I feel like there has to be a link between Toby and the mom, and that's the reason that Toby went to that place in the first place. Like why? Because I mean, it's not
Yeah.
where is it? It's like New England or something like that that she's from,
Y-
isn't
y-
it? It's
Right.
not
Yeah,
Texas.
she's in the north. No, she's like in the northeast
Right.
somewhere because
So
then they fly. Like I can literally see it in
mhm,
my mind now, like them flying down to Texas. And
yeah.
so yeah, you know, at first everyone's like, "Oh, well, Avery's mom is like the secret daughter of Tobias Hawthorne," or and then we're
But
gonna about to do like a Cassandra Clare, like, "Are we related?" Thing,
yeah.
but but then it's like, okay, but maybe was she a lover of
Hmm.
Toby's? I don't remember hearing how old Toby was, um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so but you know, it's this is the
Definitely.
conversation that's meant to be
Yeah.
being had right now.
Toby's definitely not Avery's dad because then she would be related to Tobias. And then they did the DNA test. But yeah, there has to be some sort of link. Also, the epilogue of the book, so it leaves you on that, which is crazy. But the epilogue, we have a switch in perspective, and suddenly we're in Xander's head, and he is like, I knew all along that there was going to be this puzzle and that I had to get Jameson and Grace into it at the end because I was promised the game next. And all of this is like you're promised a game after this one from your grandfather as he's dying, like he's leaving you a game after he's dead. Like that's wild. But I don't know. I
I
don't know.
I
Like
know. I
what's
know.
going
I
to
now there's like Xander was like, I'll let them have this one. Like he even said that
happen?
to Avery. He's like, I'll just let them have this one. And then that's when we find out that the boys have always had to solve the stuff every year for their
Mm-hmm.
grandfather, and it's just like this whole other level of just messed up.
Yeah.
And yeah, and now but now there's like a competition between the boys, and now Avery's thrown in the middle of it, and
Mm-hmm.
Avery's kind of the root of the problem at the same time too. And yeah, I mean, I a lot of times put
Mm-hmm.
myself in Avery's shoes,
Yeah.
and I was just so dang scared, right? You know, you have to live in this house for a year for you to get the inheritance.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you live under fear, getting shot at,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all that stuff for a year just to have all this money? Or do you walk away and know that your life is better? Because even Avery's best friend would talk to her and say like, just go home. Like you were
Yeah.
happier at home anyways. Sure, you were living in your car or whatever, but like, or maybe Avery said that to
Yeah.
her,
No,
and
yeah.
they're like, "No, like, you need this money. Like, stay." And, like, 1 year is not bad, but, when you're getting shot at,
Mhm.
um, and you feel like everyone's going to kill you at any moment, it's crazy. I mean, she literally had to have a bodyguard with her at all times.
All times, yeah, and, like, the security and all of that, I think that's wild. But, like, also, like, she still coulda chose to live in the house and just, like, be a shut-in in her room, like, distance herself, but she chose to participate in the puzzle and stuff, and she just had this, like, same drive for it. I thought she was so smart throughout. It was just
She is so smart. And we see that from the first like little bit in the beginning of the book where they think she's
Mhm.
cheating because she's the only one
Yeah,
that's ever gotten a 100 on the test. But you're right. She does choose to participate. And in part, I think that is because her mom said, "I have a secret."
yeah.
And
Well, her
she
mom raised her with
feels
the
it
games.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like in her heart, she feels like this is going to lead her to some answers about her mom that she
Mhm.
has. And I
Well,
think that that's something that's not necessarily discussed a lot, but I think it's going to be a huge factor in the next book.
mom has to be like Regina George, not Regina George. Oh my gosh, Georgia from Ginny and Georgia. Like I get such Georgia Miller vibes from the mom. Like even just like the
Hmm.
idea of playing games, the idea of like there has to be some form of like brilliance and manipulation going on. The idea of trying to make being poor fun for the child, like straight
Yeah.
Georgia Miller vibes from Ginny and Georgia. Um,
Yes.
Talking about predictions, though. So, about 50 pages into this book, we came up with some predictions for how we thought the rest of this book was going to go. I started it, Peyton added on. So, we're going to go through that list and talk about things that we were right, things that we aren't quite sure of yet. Just get into it. I don't think she is related to the Hawthorns like she is currently wondering because she's going to end up with one of the boys. But if she is related to Tobias, the mother and aunt aren't, and that's why he didn't leave them shit. So I was right that she is not related. I think that would have been a fun twist too. Like actually, she's not real because she's gonna end up with one of the boys. But it would have been a
Yeah.
fun twist if she would have been related to Tobias, that the boys then weren't. But I think that what's going to happen is going to be way more interesting. More likely, he didn't leave them shit because he thought they were all spoiled brats and that one of them is bad guy in the mystery Avery is going to have to solve. So we don't fully know
Hmm.
why he didn't leave them. It's linked to Toby, and it's linked to this idea of money, but we still don't know at the end of book one.
So, yeah, this is super interesting because in the story, mostly I feel that we
Hmm.
engage with Grayson and Jameson the most.
Hmm.
Xander's there. I think he's just a misunderstood younger brother. I don't feel.
Mm.
I think there's a villain origin story being brewed there, but I don't necessarily think he's the mastermind behind it all.
Yeah, there was just a
But
little bit that he did know about it to be led to more things, but I think that's where the manipulation's going to end. I think all of them would be willing to screw each other and Avery over for the game. But I think when it comes
yeah,
down to
yeah.
it, none of that, at least Xander definitely isn't like a real big bad guy.
No, like I said, I think this could potentially this is not the best environment to be raised in. He's got that little brother syndrome where he's like, I know a little bit more than you do because
Hmm.
that's just how little siblings are.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would like to talk about Nash a little bit and kind of pick your brain on
Yes.
how you see him. He and Libby, I
Yes.
ship them together.
Oh, that's on my list. I said that Livy
Yeah.
will move in with Avery. That's not the last we will see of the douchey boyfriend, and that she will end up with Nash. Oh, I
Yes.
okay. Nash. I liked him more in the beginning. The more we see of him, the less I like him. But I think by
Okay.
the end, we'll like him.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to come in as like the male version of Libby. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope that that sticks where he's like, all right, guys, like Libby and I are the older people that are going to take care of you all. Make sure you don't kill yourselves. And I really hope he stays that way uh, because he seems like a sweetheart and someone that could possibly be good for Libby.
Yes.
Because Drake is just the absolute worst.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well,
talk
and
about a D bag.
there's this relationship happening with Nash and Libby that's kind of off the screen because Avery's dealing with other things. So she's seeing it, and like there's this moment where she's like, "What are your intentions with my sister?" And he's like, "Well, what are your intentions with my brother?" Like kind of like throwing it back and forth. But like I there's something brewing there, and I'm not sure like I feel like they're gonna end up together, but I feel like there's gotta be another twist with him or like at least some
Yes.
backstory of why is he always trying to like save these people, specifically I think it's a lot of girls, and I wonder
Yeah.
if
Oh,
anything
yeah.
gets fixed and she's no longer a project for him, if he's gonna like flip his switch and go to someone else.
Yeah, that's true that you say that. Especially, yeah, it's almost like for him, it's like whoever's in front of me right now
Mm-hmm.
is what's important, and she's new, and this is all kind of in a weird way exciting. And it seems like he's not necessarily in for the game like the younger
Yeah.
kids are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's alarming, but both interesting at the same time. I did at first. I did not when they were back at like their original house home. I kind of read
Mm-hmm.
her this way, but like Libby is a total like emo girl. Like
Yes.
she wears all black. I did not because
Wow.
she's just so kind and she doesn't seem so like in her
Yeah.
bag. Um.
Mm-hmm.
So
She's
yeah, it's like
baking a
she has
cupcake.
some character.
Yes.
Yeah, like, but she's like all like she likes wearing black
Yeah.
and she has this like mother esque vibe about her. I
Mhm.
adore Libby
Yeah.
because they the author does not paint her as well. I'm the mom. I'm in charge. Like I know right
Mhm.
from wrong. Libby makes mistakes in this book.
Yeah.
Libby is not a perfect human being, and this is
Mhm.
like a whole other subplot of like these girls don't have a mom and they don't have a dad, which I don't know if the
Yeah.
dad's going to come into this at all, which would be very interesting to work
I
into
feel like
there.
there's no way
But,
we don't
you
see
know,
him at least
you get
once.
that mother daughter vibe.
Mhm.
What's that? Yeah.
I feel like there's no way we don't see the dad at least once. And yeah, it's an interesting relationship between Libby and Avery because they're sisters, but they weren't in one another's lives a lot before Avery's mom died. And then when Avery's mom died, Libby kind of
Right.
took Avery in, and like now there's this awkward relationship where like Libby at one point was like, I am still your guardian, like you still have to tell me things, but like I don't think Avery ever sees Libby at like we as the readers can see that and see this like that relationship between them, but I don't think Avery sees it at all. She's like, this is my sister. Even like she's like, I need to protect Libby from Drake. I'm going to go live in my car. And Libby's like, no, you don't live in your car. Like you live with me. And like, just that like weird balance where Avery's not quite sure where their relationship, the lines of it.
Yeah. And I think that their relationship is going to evolve as
Hmm.
they adjust and understand their role in this new world and this new life. And, like, not even to add on, sure, Avery has all this inheritance now and her life
Yeah.
is completely changed, but the world knows her name. They're
Mm-hmm.
interested in her. She has to go through all this media training now, how they both look and dress and
Yeah.
all of that. Like, that's a whole other element to the story is how she's
Mm-hmm.
perceived in the news.
Yes.
So I also want to add in about her like publicist and the law team that's behind
Yes.
her,
Mhm.
and how she says like she referenced like don't like don't fall in love with a hawthorn, they'll only
Yeah.
break your heart.
Mhm. I don't
Oh my
know.
gosh.
I feel like I think Alicia, I don't know how you say it. The lawyer, like she's Nash's ex, and there's this awkward
Yeah.
relationship where like she's not protecting Libby as much as she probably should because she knows that Nash has kind of attached himself to Libby. And like there's this point where Avery's like, she is your client too, like you need to protect her. And it's just like I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more to do with the loyal firm with her. I think one of my predictions was that Avery might be related to the Ortega family as a link.
Mm,
And I don't think that's true at all anymore, but I do think that
yeah.
there's definitely an interesting relationship going on there.
Yeah, Elisa, I think is her name. She really
Yeah.
just inputs herself in her life and it's like, hey, get used to me. Like, I work for you now. But
Mhm.
she does have that romantic, intimate history with the Hawthorns. And I think it's in there for a reason for us to come
Mhm.
back to. And
Yeah.
not just, oh, hey, like, I'm going to elaborate more. Yeah, Grayson and I dated. He broke my heart. No, I think there's going to be, if this is probably a subplot, whatever, but
Yeah.
she's close to the family. She's helping handle the money,
Mhm.
handle Avery's security, all of that. So that's going to be interesting. Um, Back on the topic of the subplot, a huge
Yes.
subplot in this story is the love triangle
Yes.
between Jason, Grayson, and Avery, and
And
Emily.
yes. And the fact that this isn't the first time. So when I wrote my predictions, I was not yet at the point with Emily, but I said that Avery is going
Yes.
to end up with Grayson, but it will be a long enemies to lovers arc. And in this beginning, we will see her more attached to Jameson, which was true, or at
Happened.
least to the point of what's going on in this book. What I didn't know was going to be the fact that like Grayson's kind of pushing against this love triangle not because he doesn't like Avery, but because they had done it before with Emily, who what do you feel about Emily first?
Emily, oh, it's so complicated because she like had this heart condition or whatever, but she still like lived life to the fullest, which is like fine. But I don't know if she
Manipulating Steve.
actually, yeah, I don't know if she loved the attention or if she was just
Mm-hmm.
caught up in the moment. But yeah, think, I don't think she was a very good person. And
No.
I'm just gonna go on record and say that because I don't know. I have no idea. But
Well,
I
yeah.
I feel like they didn't kill her. I feel like she either died or faked her death or
I mean,
something like that. Obviously there's a body, but I just something is just off about that story because then Grayson's like, "Well, I killed her." And then we're
mm-hmm.
like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait a minute."
I
And
mean,
this has destroyed these two brothers.
and not just them, like um Thea and Rebecca also like blame themselves to some point because like all of this stuff that happened at like that night, like very big, like Pretty Little Liars, like Emily is Allison, and like I think actually that Tobias, the grandpa, is too much there. Like there's this strong idea of he knew everything. He even knew about the fact that Jameson was there and watched Emily die and like didn't help her and stuff like that. He knew everything. I think that there's no way Tobias would be okay with Emily manipulating his grandsons without him being in control some way. Like it's almost like Tobias is like, no, the grandsons are
Yeah.
my toys to play with. And so my grand theory is that whatever happened that night that Emily died, whether or not she really died or not, that Tobias had a hand in it, maybe set it up so that way she saw and she like Tobias orchestrated her catching Rebecca and Thea together. Maybe he orchestrated like some of the fact that she jumped from the highest point. I don't know. But like there is no way. Also the idea that like okay, so they're like, "Oh, Avery's birthday is the day that Emily died." I think it's opposite. I think Tobias made sure that Emily died on Avery's birthday. I think Avery came first.
Yes. I think the idea of Avery was always that.
Mhm.
Also, this all happened at a very opportune moment where Avery is almost 18 years old.
Yes. Mhm.
Where she I think it was 21 she's able to take all of it, but
Right.
it wasn't like there's this 12-year-old that we're like, "Oh, hey." And
Oh, yeah,
Tobias
you need the
Hawthorne
money.
has such a like meta way of living
Mhm.
life that like I think even his death was planned. Like
Yeah,
this was
yeah.
all orchestrated. This was all orchestrated by him.
Yes.
And yeah, so like even the scene where they my heart dropped when she walks into the like ball and I believe it was Grayson sees her and he's just like,
With
"Why are you like? What are you?" With her
yes.
hair all braided,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Uh-huh.
and Xander's like, "You know why they
Oh,
reacted that way, right?" And he's like, the little brother comes in and he's like, "Emily wore her hair like that," and it's just like,
yeah, it's so crazy. And like the fact that like that night that her hair is like that is when they fly over the Blackwoods and they get the numbers and that they get the date and that's when Jameson's like, "No, I'm done. Like this was all just to like rub in my face the fact that she died." I just I am very excited for book 2. I don't know if I'll read it right away, but like this is definitely a trilogy that I am going to have to finish.
I think book 2 will be I have this like chaotic way of reading books, and book 1 is never a hitter for me. It
Mhm.
never is. And I don't know if my like peanut sized brain just has a hard time grasping concepts. But by book 2 I'm like, let's go. I was
Let's
like,
go. Yes.
this is
We're
it. Book
we're
2
in the
for me
story.
always
Yeah.
it is time. It's grind time. Like this is my ish. So I think the second one's like the Hawthorne Legacy or whatever
Mhm.
it's called. And so I am excited, even though this was a 3 out of 5 for me. I think it's because I think the book series is going to pop off. And
Yes.
it's probably going to end up being one of my favorite YA series slash reads in general. So
I
yeah,
agree.
especially with that ending, there's so
Ooh.
much. There's so much to this
Yes.
story. And I think this book was just laying the foundation of like, hey,
Mhm.
this is what all this is about. And we're about to jump in.
Yes.
Reeling you in. All right. Thank you for joining us today. And that is all we have time for. But we want to know, what did you think about the inheritance games? If you have read it, what do you think? Have you read them all? Don't give us any spoilers yet because I
Yeah.
don't want it ruined for me. But where will this mystery lead? We want to hear your theories on top of ours.
Mhm.
And let us know in the comments below if you think we should cover the next 2 books in the trilogy.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all so much and happy reading.